We got Josh coming back here on the stage. What up with you, player?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah, man, we doing good, man.
Josh looking clean.
Facts.
Yeah.
Josh looking a little bit more single than the last time we saw him.
He got the, you know what I'm saying? He got the Cuban link on, got the chest out. Was good.
Yeah. So we got to catch up on what has happened because you matched with Ruth, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The last time he was here. So just walk us through this thing, right? As soon as the show ended, all right? When Hardly in Love was done, walk me through what happened with you and Ruth. How did you reach out? How did you communicate? Walk me through it.
So as soon as the show ended, I went back and watched some of the show where I could get her Instagram, her page, and I contacted her on Instagram, and because I kind of thought she was gonna hit me up first for some reason, but whatever. So I hit her up on Instagram. We messaged each other for like 2 or 3 days. She ended up giving me her number. We had some good conversation over Instagram, text message in Instagram inbox. And then like we spoke 1 time or 2 times over the phone. And then I got that random text message that said that she's, you know, she was thankful to match with me. But she doesn't feel aligned or she doesn't feel any chemistry between us. So I guess I took that as a, you know,
Hold on. So now you took us all the way from front to back in about 30 seconds.
Down.
So the show's over with. You send her. You was waiting for her. You thought she was gonna send you a DM, but that DM didn't come. You said.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like I kind of figured she would message me first, but I don't know.
Why is that?
Great question.
What made you think she would want to reach out to you first?
Women are just quick. They're quicker than us. They get to their spots quicker. So I messaged her that night at the end of the show, but I didn't hear back from her until the next day or 2. I forgot. I think it was the next day.
Okay.
Oh,
now that's important.
Or 2 is different.
Yeah.
So
So
two.
You got to give us the actual situation. Was it 1 or was it 2?
Okay, I'm gonna go with 1.
Okay.
Okay, so she hits you back. Was it the morning time or like afternoon?
Like afternoon. It was late. It wasn't right away. That's why I was kind of like, what's going on?
So first off, did y'all ever get on the phone?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And how was the conversation?
Basically, we started off messaging each other, inboxing each other over Instagram. We were doing that more so than talking over the phone, but we talked over the phone like 1 time, and then everything else, all the rest of the communication was like text messages.
Do you prefer to DM over talking on the phone?
No, I would rather talk on the phone, but you got to have time to talk over the phone. These women are always busy. They working, you know, it's always something. Like, I get it. We all have lives, but I feel like you still got it. Cause the thing is though, Tyshawn and Ryan, she gave me a list of kind of like the things that she kind of has, she kind of does throughout her day. So I kind of felt in the back of my head that like, where you gonna make time for a relationship? I mean, she'll tell you. I was even willing to go out there and meet up in person and everything, but it just didn't even get close to that.
Most people have no idea how to plan a date that builds connection with 100 engaging dating cards, skip the small talk, and get straight to the real conversation. Let's take the dating game to the next level. Click the link in the description and use discount code CLIPS for 10% off. So let me ask you this. That first conversation on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the first conversation?
You talking about over the phone or
over the phone?
That was about an 8. I rated an 8.
Wow, I would say that's pretty good.
So y'all had some good chemistry. It was good connection on that conversation.
It was good conversation. It was good chemistry for the interest, for the things that we want interest wise. But as y'all know, we still got to get to more, and that's what did not happen.
Now, once you ended the first call, then I'm assuming some more texts started to follow after that.
That's exactly what happened. And then I got a random text that said that It was nice to match with you. Like I said earlier, it was nice to match, but I don't see our chemistry align and, you know, have a blessed one.
Do you think that that was the most appropriate way to communicate to you that there was no longer any interest?
Of course not. Of course not. But nobody's gonna come up here and say that that's the the wrong way to go, because it's like an easy way out. Like, okay, yeah, I'm not interested, and let's move on.
We actually got Ruth coming here to the table. Show some love to Ruth in the chat. Family, what's up with you, Ruth? How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
How's
good.
everyone doing? Hey, Josh. Hey, Ron. Hey, Ty.
What's up?
How you doing?
I like
How you
Ruth.
doing, Ruth?
What did you say?
Ruth done switch it up on us. I like that sweatshirt, the casual.
The sweatshirt,
Yeah.
the casual. See,
You know, go
I like that.
Birds. I'm still.
oh yeah, she rocking the green and white.
That's actually dope.
Oh wow.
Shout out to Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts. Smash them boys.
Yeah. No, you know what? So thank you so much, Ruth, for coming up on here and getting down with us tonight. Were you able to hear the entire conversation that we had with Josh?
Yes, I did hear it.
Okay.
I want to hear your side of things because, Josh gave us the breakdown of what happened, when the show ended all the way up until that very first phone call. And, he said that, he was obviously looking for you to reach out because, he was having a hard time finding that he had to go back and watch the video. Was it important to you that Josh reached out first, before you reached out to him?
Yeah. So I ended that conversation that we had last, right, with like, I'm gonna follow your lead. So whatever pace you were going, that's what I was gonna follow. So I was expecting him to reach out first, just to confirm interest, and then we can go from there.
Understood.
Now, it seems like Josh was a little concerned because even though he sent you that message that night, you didn't respond back till probably maybe next day in the afternoon. And
So I will say my memory is shoddy, so I had to look at it. Josh texted me at 9:52 p.m. that night. He did. I responded the next morning at 7:07 a.m.
oh,
Okay, that's reasonable.
So I don't know. I don't know how much time he needed for me to like respond. I feel like 7 a.m. is pretty early.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. That's
Josh, that ain't no afternoon. He said you was going with a day or two, Josh. 7 a.m. is pretty early, man.
Yeah. That's probably right around the time she woke up, got herself together, and you sounds like one of the first people she responded back to.
Probably so.
Actually, so that was a Friday. I have a 6 a.m. workout, so that was literally right after my workout.
Okay.
Understood. Okay. And you guys, how long? So, okay, 7 a.m. You get the DM. Y'all texting. How long exactly was texting to y'all? How long was the DMing happening until the first call popped off? Was it that day, later on that day, or the next day?
No. So we were having a conversation on Instagram up until Sunday afternoon.
How many days was the show? Was Thursday.
The show was Thursday.
So that's
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday.
and Sunday.
So y'all was DMing for 3 days before you had your first phone call.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ruth.
And so,
go ahead. Go ahead, Ruth. We're listening.
No, I was again just trying to not be super aggressive about it, like not trying to put the cart before the horse. At some point when we were having a conversation, I mean, it was pretty, what are your challenges in dating? What's been your experience? Like we shared some of those things. To the point where he was sending kind of like longer voice notes. I personally don't enjoy voice notes. Okay, it's like a voicemail for me. It's, having to sit there and kind of listen. So I said, I was kind of waiting for you to ask me for my number, but I personally don't really enjoy voice notes. So here's my number, give me a call. And so that is how I offered up my number.
Okay. Sounds like Ruth was being flexible and just said, hey, look, let's get straight to it. Let's jump on the phone.
And did the phone call, I agree with that, Ryan. Did the phone call happen immediately after you gave him that number?
So here was the kind of like pile on to what I find to be kind of like not initiating, right? So yes, he did reach out. I will absolutely give Josh that. And I want to preface this by like, Josh is a really nice guy. Again, I still don't think that we were aligned. And so I gave him my number, told him, hey, let's just talk on the phone. He said, bet, I'll give you a call in a few. And so I said, at the time I was at church, I serve at church, is our third service. So it's like from 12 12:15 to about like 2 o'clock. I'm at church. And so I said, well, I'm at church, can't talk right now. I had a meeting at 3. I said, well, I'll be free after 5 your time, which would be 4 my time. And he said, okay, bet, I'll give you a call then. 4 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock his time did roll around. He did reach out. He sent me a text and was like, hey, Ruth, it's Josh. We kind of text a little bit back and forth. And then he said, call me when you're free. So again, I'm left to initiate the conversation by calling him, which I did. So I called him. We had a conversation. Yeah, it was, I mean, I would say like, it was kind of like that, what do they call it? Like the dating starter pack a little bit.
Okay.
Right. Or
Okay.
like you're just, you know, asking questions. I did feel like I was kind of asking more of the questions, but that just could be my personality. I'm just really inquisitive. I think there were kind of like lull moments in the conversation too, where it just wasn't flowing naturally. Right. It was just kind of like, there were some moments where like, so, you know, like what do I say next kind of moments. And then after that, I think I had to head out the house because I was going to a kickback that day for, there's a new Black owned creative spot here in Dallas. And so I wanted to go support. So I told him like, I was going to head out and that we could talk another time.
Okay.
Ruth is thorough.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, Josh, from everything you hearing, is everything Ruth is saying, is that about spot on?
About 90%. But what I'm trying to understand is what about the conversation was like what did you feel mixy about the conversation that we had as far as like dry spotting?
So I feel like when we were on the show, like you were kind of feeding some questions back. I felt like I was asking most of the questions. Like I was kind of more interested. I think I do recall you asked me like, how is it? Because we shared that I was an only child. You did ask like, how is that? I don't necessarily recall like any questions that were inquiring about me. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but if you can tell me something or tell me a question, I don't remember, but I think the only one I remember was you did ask me like, how was it being an only child? We did talk about kind of like, you know,
We talked about you said you used to live out in Florida. We talked about that.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
but I still mean like, yeah, we talked about things, but I didn't feel like I was getting any questions about me or like anything that was inquiring about getting to know me. Right. That's just how I felt.
So Ruth, let me ask you this: in your typical experience, because it can be, you know, some awkwardness when you initially talking to somebody, like you said, the first date or the first call starter pack. What is your expectation, or what's your ideal first conversation? How would that have went?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say expectation. I just, you know, I always say my best day or my favorite day or my perfect day is like good food, good drinks, good conversation. I am a sapiosexual. I love deep conversations. I can probably talk someone's ear off a little bit, but like I do like that energy of like going back and forth and getting to know each other and being curious. So my ideal conversation would just be that it would flow. Is that my expectation off of the first day? Like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, right? Like it's not an indication of who this person is. It just makes for a little bit of awkwardness, which is fine. So that wasn't the reason why, though, that I sent the message about us not being aligned.
That was my question, because you didn't check out after that phone call.
No.
You were still interested at that point.
Correct.
So when did you check out?
So after that conversation, actually to the point, the conversation was, I think it just needed kind of like a springboard a little bit, right? So I actually have the Hardly in Love cards. I separated out the cards with questions to ask for our next conversation, right? And so the next day came around, and it was just a continuation of like almost like texting purgatory, where it's like, good morning, how was work? Good morning, how was work? Good morning, how was work? And nothing in between that. And to me, I felt like if you were interested, rather than continuing to ask me like, how was work? Like, how about ask me what I do for work? You know? ask me actual like inquisitive questions about myself rather than it just felt like a checkbox, like he was kind of like marking a checkbox of like, okay, I said good morning. Like, okay, I asked her this, how's work, but it was nothing else outside of that.
Let me ask you a question. How long was the phone call
Uh,
before you had to go to bed or whatever?
the phone call was probably like 35 minutes, 40, maybe 35 minutes.
Hmm.
Why,
What was
Josh?
that
What you?
about, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh. Tell us what was that question for?
Right.
35 minutes is, I mean, I remember, and I know we living in a different time, but my first girlfriend in my life, right? I remember the first time I spoke to her, we was on the phone for like 2 hours. But again, I get it. We all got lives. We all got things that we got to do in the morning because we're adults. And I'm just saying, it's part of getting to know each other. Like you have to, I personally feel like more time should have been invested in the phone call. But you're right. Like, I was asking those questions um because because you sent me, I think it was it an inbox about like some of the things that you do throughout your day, or was it
So
just the things that you like to do?
no. Okay. So we had talked about like, so again, it was the same message of like, how was your day? Right.
Yeah,
Rather
yeah.
than, or like, how was work? Rather than responding and just saying like, oh, it was fine, which would probably be my usual response. In my mind, I was actually making an effort by telling you what I actually did for my day. So when I said like, oh, I went to the gym at 6 a.m., then I went to the grocery store, then I had work, then I made dinner, and then I just, like watched TV. And like that's my usual kind of like Mondays, right? Like that was just me giving you, I don't know, I thought at least more information about like what I did in my day rather than just being like, oh, it was cool. It was all right.
Mm.
Oh,
So
Josh.
what about so what about when I had mentioned about us meeting in person?
I genuinely felt like we hadn't had enough conversation for that to be a question. Like, I don't even know if you like me. You don't know if I like you. Like, we don't know if we're aligned. We don't know if we want the same things yet. Like, that was a little, I
It
was
didn't
never
it
going
didn't
to
have
ask
to
you.
happen right away. It didn't have to happen right
And
away,
so
but
that's
it
why I clarified. So when you proposed it, I said in person and you responded like, well, not right now, but like maybe in the future. Right. And
right,
right.
right.
And I said, well, yeah, it's a little too early right now. Like we haven't had another conversation. But if it gets there, then like sure. But why are we talking about like meeting in person in the future when we haven't even I don't even know we don't even know much about each other right now.
Okay.
I guess I was assuming that we would have up until I had got that text message.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. I I just I didn't feel like I never said I was too busy. There was never an opportunity to be too busy for. And so I think the I didn't clock it until later, but like I don't know if it's maybe a past experience that you've had where somebody was just like too busy. But when I shared what I was doing for the weekend, like all I said was like I was volunteering the weekend, but I didn't say like the whole entire 24-hour day. Like I didn't feel like there was any initiative to even like ask me, when are you free? When are you available? Like there was no, nor did you call me really. You didn't call me, so I didn't miss a call. Like I was never too busy to answer a call that I didn't get, and I was never too busy to respond to a text message either. So, um, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I was too busy. I just kind of think that that was a word that was used a lot in our conversations. I don't know if you noticed. Even like initially when we were sharing our weekend plans, do you remember? And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this for the weekend." You mentioned what you were doing was your softball game, and then you're like, "Wow, you're busy." And then fast forward to when you asked me how my day was, I explained like, "Okay, here's what I did for my day." It was like, "Wow, you're extremely busy." I'm like, "Well, like I'm just explaining to you kind of the things that I do. It doesn't
But what
necessarily
if I would have called
I
you
don't have
throughout the day
time."
though? But what if I would have called throughout the day anyway?
That wasn't my expectation. Like we won't know. We won't really know because you didn't call. But it could have been easy as like, hey, because when we shared our work schedule, right? Like you asked me, what are my work hours, I think, or my work schedule, and I said I work from 9 to 5.
You said you work from home, yeah.
I work from home from 9 to 5, right? It could have been something as simple as like, okay, like, can I call you at 6 or can I call, you know what I mean? Like, and I would have absolutely made myself available, but there wasn't any of that. There wasn't that initiative either to even find out like when we could have a conversation.
So hold on, guys. I want to figure this out because this is
700 people in the chat.
Shout out to everybody in the chat right now, all the lovers in the chat today. I want to go ahead and get some clarity to this part here because you walked us through the interaction. You walked us through when and the point you checked out. He expressed, Josh expressed his thoughts on pretty much like the breakup text, if you will, communicating your thoughts via SMS or text message. What's your thoughts on that? Do you feel like it's most appropriate to end a relationship or where you guys were, whatever you would describe that relationship at the point of text messaging?
Again, we hadn't established a foundation yet. We only had one phone conversation. So to me, we have always been communicating via text. Why would this be any different?
Wow.
Understood.
Well, wait,
wait, hold tight.
One more time. The other portion of that too was that, I'm sure there are people who have experienced I call it like purgatory text, where it's like the same text every day. Like, good morning, how are you doing? Good morning, how are you doing? Good morning, how are you doing? Normally, I would ghost that. In my perspective, I thought I was doing a better job actually by texting him and letting him know like, hey, it was really nice meeting you. It was really nice matching with you. I think you're a really nice guy. I don't necessarily think that we're aligned in certain areas. And that's okay. Like, I wish you the best of luck. And I really hope that you find your person soon. And I genuinely meant that. I think the response that I got back was a little off-putting as well.
Oh, wait a minute. We didn't know about that. Tell us how did Josh respond?
The response after that was, well, how do you think you're going to be in a relationship if you're extremely busy?
Which is a fair question.
Again, as I mentioned, I think that was an assumption made off of, like, there was no facts to make that assumption. I was never too busy to answer a call that didn't happen. I was also never too busy not to text back. So, I just let him know, like, perhaps if you find that, and I told him ahead of time, like, I do have a fulfilled life. Like, I do things, right? If you find my passions and my interests, to be something that's too busy, then we're not aligned. And I stand by that. Like, I want someone who is going to encourage and support my passions and interests and also have his own. I'm not going to be the girl that's like sitting around waiting for the phone call.
But that's not what it was, though. The fact of the matter is you legit don't have time to even do anything outside of what it is that you got going on.
Now, Josh, let me ask you.
Hold on, wait. Hold tight, Josh. No, please, hold tight, guys. Hold tight.
Okay.
Because I have to figure this out. Because I know you keep communicating that she's very busy, Josh. And Ruth is communicating that a call was never made. What was it? Was there any level of neglect that you experienced throughout that interaction where you felt like she was too busy for you, where you did not get the attention that you feel like you should have gotten to feel that way? What was it that made you feel like she was too busy?
Yeah.
I would say that I didn't get the attention that I thought I would have gotten. But I guess also too, I will blame it on the communication, the text message that we had when she said that she was doing these things on this day. I think it was a Sunday or whatever. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if you're in church and then you're going to this event, and then you got work the next day and then you have this going on, I mean, what room do you have for a man? That's a fair
Mm.
that's a fair question.
So you feel like a woman, especially with Ruth, that pretty much has a full day already planned, doesn't have enough room for a man in her life.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say her specifically, but
Just any woman in general that pretty much
any
already has their days fully planned with events and a schedule. They really don't have a time for a man in their life.
right, because the thing is that most women always say they want a relationship, but we all know that that takes time, it takes work, it takes effort. So yes, that does include phone calls, that includes visitations, hanging out in person, especially if you're not even in the same state. So all of that stuff is very, very important. But if you already have a legit schedule that you do consistently,
Now, Josh, I do want to, because maybe I missed something. Ruth,
Yes.
what was that schedule? Because it sounded like a regular schedule, Josh. So let's just make sure. Ruth, what was that schedule that you gave?
This is what I'm very confused about. Okay, again, we
And
matched
and,
on
and,
a
and by the way, you can be brief and brilliant with that because I know you already gave it to us,
yeah.
but be brief and brilliant with the schedule, please.
We matched on a Thursday. We shared weekend plans. I said I'm volunteering both days. Just that's it. Monday, how was your day? It was great. I had to work out at 6 a.m. I worked. I cooked dinner. I watched some of my TV shows. What's your work schedule? I work 9 to 5. I serve at church on our third service from 12:15 to 2. That day, I did have a 3 p.m. meeting scheduled. This was scheduled before I met you. If having a schedule and a routine is a problem, then yes, I am too busy for you.
yeah, I
Yeah,
figured that after you sent the text message.
yeah.
But I think one of you guys had asked the question beforehand. I was gonna answer it. Can y'all re-ask the question?
No.
Touch
Listen,
on.
no. Listen. No further questions, Your Honor. I think at this point, first of all, we see that this is just this. There's not going to be any compatibility here, right?
Yeah.
Not gonna be able to do
No.
it.
So with that being the case, all my lovers in the chat, I'll let you know that these two are still both bachelors and bachelorettes.
Yeah.
First off, and just to be clear, rarely in dating do two people that send, or when a text message, a breakup text, whatever you want to call it, is sent, does this interaction happen?
Correct.
Where we get this level of closure so we can understand it. Because this is why Harley and Love is here. Not just for us to connect, but for us to learn and understand, because this level of depth into why these things happen, I feel like is extremely important, family, because I think all of us have experienced some level of this happening. You connect and it don't really happen right. Y'all not really on the same page. Two people are interpreting things completely different. Josh is like, I don't really like this. Is way too busy. I'm not getting attention I usually like. Josh is probably used to ladies, because I'm reading between the lines here. Josh is like, I like my women giving me high interest. I like my women's pretty much calling me, texting me, really expressing that they're very interested. Ruth, I got to take initiative. She's texting back kind of slow in the very first time. And, she's got a lot going on, at least too much for me. And that's just not my preference. Ruth is like, yo, this brother's not being aggressive enough. And everybody's in their own world having a different experience. And then a text happens like, yo, I'm out of here. I'm clocking out.
Which does not always happen. The ghost is usually the first. I mean, that I would say ghosting happens 99% of the time. But the text, I think, Ruth is just trying to, be clear about it. But you can see why a woman may not want to text, because once you text, then you get a reply.
Yeah.
And then the reply could turn into something completely different as well.
And
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I'm open to the feedback, right? When we're talking about like showing a certain level of interest back, like I'm curious to know, like, what was that supposed to look like for you, Josh? Like, was it me calling? Because I felt like I called, right? I called the first time. Was it me doing what exactly?
Wait, I want to
What do you
confirm.
mean?
You said
Wait,
Ruth, you
what
called
do
the
you
first
mean?
time?
I did.
I didn't know.
That's what I said. There was the lack of initiation. So that's
Okay.
why I want to know. Like,
she said Harley initiated.
Well, no. What I'm trying to get at is, like, I gave you my number. I called you. I was intentional about the responses that I sent to you, right? So that it wasn't a short, like, one word answer. So I'm trying to gauge, like, what was your expectation as far as feeling like I was even more interested?
No, I mean, you pretty much got it. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't call. I didn't communicate the way that you like that, the way that you thought I should have. Because in my head, I'm thinking about, um, I guess that list, like, you just was too busy for me. And being that I did not make the call, I mean, it is what it is.
No, but I'm actually genuinely interested in knowing, like, what would you like to have seen more?
Um,
Because if that's the feedback, then
So
well,
so guys, listen. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah,
Listen,
go ahead.
y'all gonna have to get the rest of this closure offline.
okay. Actually,
So
don't even
Honestly,
worry
I
about it.
learned a lot from this interaction.
Yeah, y'all gonna
I think both Josh and Ruth were extremely open with us about what happened, and I definitely
Yeah.
got a
I
lot more
still,
insight.
and I just want to say, like, I hope that, you find someone that really genuinely makes you happy, because I
Thank
mean,
you.
you seem very genuine. You may not, hopefully you make the time that's needed, but
I
you
I
seem,
have time. I have time for a relationship. I absolutely have time, but there has to be a relationship first, right?
yeah, well, you have to get there. You have to build to a relationship. So that's texting, talking, meeting, things like that.
hold on, wait. Look,
Josh,
I'm gonna
Josh
need
can
y'all-
make sure he get the
hey,
last word.
You got it.
Hey,
You got it.
so look, y'all
okay.
need to just go ahead. Y'all
No,
go ahead.
I'm just joking.
We're gonna send y'all backstage because we got a fun segment coming up tonight.